You're listening to 1881, powered by the American Hereford Association and part of the Hereford Network. Here's your host, Shane Bedwell.
Welcome back to another episode of 1881. This is your host, Shane Bedwell, and super excited to bring today's guest to you today. It's a great start here in May. A lot of the parts of the country are getting a pretty good dose of moisture, and that's certainly welcomed. And I know maybe a few still haven't got that yet, so we're hoping that's met and your needs keep being met. So without any further ado, we're excited to welcome this episode title, Herefords in the Sandhills. And today's guest is certainly no stranger to the Hereford breed, an icon to many and a leader within the breed in several different roles, and a 2019 Hereford Hall of Fame inductee. It is my pleasure to bring you today's guest, Mr. Denny Hoffman. Welcome.
Thank you. This is interesting. You'd said something about this some time back. I didn't exactly jump on the wagon. This isn't what I'm best at, but I look forward to doing this and kind of reflecting back on my past as it's been.
Well, we look forward to hearing more about your past and hopefully Hoffman Ranch, Bedford, Nebraska. That's where the ranch currently sits today and operates and has for the last several years. But Denny, let's start from kind of childhood. And you grew up in Redmond, Oregon, and that was where the young Denny Hoffman got his start.
Yeah, it's interesting to look back on that. There's actually an old publication out there. It's called the Central Oregon Rancher. And it started in 1953. And I get that, and I get to see a lot of people I knew. And then occasionally there's an old picture of me in there with a little old steer. So, go ahead.
That publication still they're still publishing that today?
Yeah, this is the fellow that's got it now is the son of the guy that originated it. So it's fun to see. But anyway, Redmond was a great place to grow up there in Central Oregon. It's totally changed now. I go back and don't know anybody, don't recognize anything. It's a different atmosphere than what it was. What the people's beliefs and needs are totally different. It was a little old sleepy egg town, cow town when I was a kid. And now, it's beautiful country, lots of mountains, lakes, and scenery. So recreation's been a big part of bringing people in there. Some of the people you would enjoy, and some of them are a little different. So, but anyway, I was born there. I spent a lot of time with my grandparents, my mom's folks, and they did all facets of ag. Everything from chickens to milk cows, to potatoes, to beef cattle, you name it. And I grew up spending a lot of time with them. I idolized my granddad, and he was a very hardworking man and he really set my goals as far as work ethic goes. I always wanted to think I can work as hard as he did, and kind of set out to do that. Was born, as I look back, with just a passion for this, like Jason has been. We're just born with it. There was almost no getting away from it. I can remember my mom going to a conference at school and coming back, and I got chewed out for. Teacher says, "You're more concerned about what's going on at home than you are here." And I said, "Yeah." So anyway, but that's where my mind always was. And grew up there, participated in the local county fair. Started my first fair was in my first Hereford heifer was 1958. It was a heifer. I had a great uncle that passed away and spent time with us. He lived on the Oregon coast, and he had a little purebred herd. And I wound up getting to pick a heifer out of that, give 25 cents a pound for her. She brought $131.25.
Oh, my.
Anyway, that was a good start, and I was all about Herefords. And then when I was in high school, there was an older gentleman that had been a Hereford breeder for a long time, had a little herd. I don't remember, it was 8 or 10 cows. And I bought them along with the herd bull. I think I give $3,000 for the whole thing. Had a really good year with them and had that money I'd borrowed to buy them paid off in a year's time. So that was a pretty good start. And they were good cattle. I actually, for whatever reason, still have those old pedigrees. And I'm not even going to tell you what they were. But they wouldn't be too popular today.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's where I got my start in it. Didn't have a lot of background, but I would go to the state fair or any place there were cattle, and I would go to those open class barns and try and help those guys and try and learn all I could. Wound up getting a job on a registered Angus operation one summer, college, and then in that time frame, it allowed me to meet Butch Wiswell and Doug Bennett and Howard Stone. So anyway, I'd went to Oregon State, went to Kansas State, then came back and went to work at Stone's. And that couldn't have been a better opportunity for me, getting to learn from people that were the best in the business, gave me a chance. And, you just had to go in there and work and show you deserved it. I was there. Butch was the herdsman for a year after I went there. And then he left and went in business with Harold Thompson at TT Herefords. And I became the herdsman. And I was there 7 years. And looking back, that was some of the best years of my life. Those were awesome cattle. It was right during the type change from going from little to big. And I went there in 1969. And but the other thing, other than beyond being show cattle, the carcass data we had on those cattle, you wouldn't believe. And it was the real thing. It was back when you had to test 8 head. They went through the feedlot, the rate of gain, and then did all the carcass on them. And the carcass on those cattle was incredibly good, particularly when you look back at how maternal they were. There was an old bull called TT MacDo 82nd, and he led the carcass aspect of the breed for years. He had on 8 head, he had 142 points, and that was really good. And then that led to other things, and the carcass for the breed was basically discarded. And I see that as being something that was very misfortunate. We had way more data on Hereford cattle in the early 70s and late 60s than the Angus breed ever had. And I'm not picking on Angus because we've also got Angus cattle, but they've done things that we sure could have done if we'd have stayed the course.
So those were, Denny, those were performance kind of bull tests, that regional tests where you conducted those trials or put that together?
You'd put them in a feedlot, and it was kind of outlined by AHA what the parameters were. And everybody had to follow basically the same format. So, but they were all slaughtered, all that data, ribeyes, marbling, everything was calculated and put up. But those cattle in general, the 82nd sire was a bull called MacDo 43rd. And he was a dominant sire in that herd for a long time, along with Mark Donald 77th. And they just had it. They had the ability to grade choice. They had the ability. They had way more ribeye. Looking back in that time frame, there'd have been lots of steers going to slaughter. Hereford steers that'd be 8 to 10 inch ribeyes. And as we
Yeah.
know, that's not the case today. The ribeye, I think, is the one place we've really taken off and ran. And I see
Mhm.
now with what's getting done with the marbling, it's not going to be much different. Uh,
Right.
this just shows what selection pressure can do. And I think the things that you're doing with us and the emphasis that's put on it, um, I think puts us in a real good seat to go forward with the breed. Um, we, like I say, those cattle was during the type change, and those cattle were just bigger than anything else. Not only they have all that carcass data, but they just had more growth and more performance. Um, a bull that really got it going for us was a bull called the General, and he was a straight Mark Donald bred bull, and he sired a lot of good cattle. One of the first ones was a bull that we showed, a summer yearling bull that won 4 Register of Merit shows back when it was all about
Right.
register meeting. He was never beaten. He won Filer, Portland, Kansas City, and Denver. And in Denver, we had him in the Royal Claim Sale, and he sold for $30,000, and that was a lot of money. Uh, Randy Ward had a partner on the bull, and his name was the Meekums, John Patsy
Okay.
Meekum, and they also owned the New Orleans Saints football team. So
Oh, really?
consequently, that bull got renamed the Royal Saint, which was pretty cool. And he was way ahead of his time. Wasn't the greatest breeding bull in the world, not as good as the sire, but he was a well-made, good moving bull.
So Denny, that would have been mid 70s.
That would have been 71. He'd have been Denver champion in 1972. And,
Okay.
and I can still remember standing there when Doug was showing him, and Gib Ream and Miles McKee were the judges, and they slapped that
Yeah.
bull, and I went nuts. I swear it was way more meaningful then. There were more cattle shown at that time. Denver was just the ultimate. And so
Mm-hmm.
if you won Denver, you could talk about that the rest of your life. I guess I
Yeah.
am.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, there was 30, 40 head in a class at
But
least, huh?
yeah, and the bull show was bigger than the heifer show, and that's changed due
Right.
more than anything to the fact so many juniors are involved, which is a really good
Mm-hmm.
thing. But yeah, it was nothing to see 30 or 40 spring bull calves out there in one class,
Mm-hmm.
and it was a big deal. And stands were packed; you couldn't hardly get in there. It was a great time in the Hereford breed.
Well, the picture you're painting with the cattle and how they performed and what they were able to do through their progeny in terms of carcass, but also that was the kind that was still being selected in the ring. You know, it was kind of a perfect balance,
That's
of
right.
where we're trying to be today, and combining everything, and that seemed kind of like a sweet spot in that time period.
Yeah, it really was. We were, but the other thing, in speaking in regard to that, I think now we're getting closer again. That same thing. I think our good show cattle are also good performance cattle. It's interesting. Casey put down all our national and reserve champions on a list, and Jason asked me one day, said, "Well, how many do you suppose that was?" I said, "Oh, I don't know, maybe 30, maybe not that many." Well, Casey brought me the new list, and as of yesterday or this year, that that number's 139. Now there's
Is that right?
there's a occasional Charolais Angus in there, but not many. The kids really prefer the Herefords. So anyway, but my point where I'm getting is it's ironic that we've been able to do that, where we put the basic selection pressure is on our range bull trade. That's the first and
Mm-hmm.
foremost thing we select for. Is And the soundless thing is as big a part of that as anything. One thing I have heard more this year delivering bulls. I remember 2 days in a row here about a week ago when I was delivering the last of the bulls. I delivered bulls to people that had never bought from us before. And, you always want to know how they heard about you, how they found out about you, what they think and what they like. And I said, well, what led you to us? And both of those people were people close to my age that had never owned a Hereford bull.
Is that right?
And the reason being is structure. They're coming to the Hereford breed hoping to correct some structural issues that our breed, I say, has done a better job of staying on top of than any other. And as we progress along, we need to always remember that is paramount. If you don't have them right structurally, you're out of business. It just won't work. So anyway, I'm proud of the breed for the progress they've made that way and where we're headed. So
back to kind of the Stone Ranch there, Denny, you endured a great career, was herdsman there for 9 years, and what led you to California? What was kind of the transition from Stone to?
Yeah, I'd been in a partnership or two and had worked for some other people, and it wasn't like it was at Stone's. Howard Stone is probably the greatest owner of all time. A self-made man. He had Caterpillar businesses, highly intelligent, very energetic, but a great person. Only time he ever got after me for anything was once at a show. He didn't think I'd spend enough on the party. So, if you did your job with that man, and then, of course, working for Doug, who, was the best in the business, was just a golden opportunity to learn from the best. And he and I, to this day, are good friends. In fact, in about a month, we're going to be going to a place in the Lowell Mountains, and along with Butch and his wife, Doug and his wife, Harold Catlin and his wife, and Dixie and I, we're going to spend about 3 days up there telling the same lies we have for the past few years when we get together. But it's a fun thing.
Awesome.
He'll be 91 here for long and really sharp. But it was a perfect job for me. Those were the best cattle around, but it was the best environment. So I could not have been fortunate enough to have had a better start. And we'd go all across the country. We started with 2 bobtail trucks. I can remember going from the PI in Portland directly en route to Kansas City. That was 1,925 miles with 2 bobtail trucks. Made 2 stops.
Now, Denny, I don't think some of our younger listeners know what a bobtail truck is. You might have to break that down for them here.
Well, they're doggone lucky they don't know. But they were old trucks with beds on them and stock racks. You had to have a load and chute to get up to them. One of the greatest improvements in inventions in the world is gooseneck trailer. And if you ever run one of these, and then I graduated to a semi, so it got better.
Yeah.
It just beat you and the cattle both to death. So it was real progress when I got to the semi. But anyway, to go back to your question, then I wound up going to MacArthur, California, and managed the Intermountain Fair there for 17 years. And there again, that was the perfect job for me. I wouldn't have been designed for all fair jobs in California. The big ones, weren't like this. This one I could get outside and get my hands dirty. I had a director who was an older gentleman. And he told me one day, "You just keep your butt out of that office and out here in the grounds, and we'll get along good." And that's the way it worked.
Yeah.
I did a lot of the things I did most of the mowing on the grounds as an escape from the office, escape from those pressures, and where I could get out and think. And I got to where I enjoyed writing grants, and I would come up with those ideas when I was outside, like on a mower or a piece of equipment, make myself some notes and go back. We were the first fair to ever get a grant from a private foundation, and we had the old main hall there where everything happened. Um, Needed some repairs. Didn't have the money, so got this idea, heard about this McConnell Foundation and went to them and levered with the state and totally redid that building. And that's been 30 plus years ago. But anyway, it was an agricultural area, um, lots of good young people. And it used to be we had a feeder sale there. And so there was a lot of facility, and we redid that. Lots of steel. Anyway, then by having that facility, boy, a great place for a pen show. And we worked at that. And at one year, we had over 400 head in our pen show there. And the only show of its kind that would have been bigger that year would have been Denver. So that was a lot of fun. And, got really tight in that community with a lot of people. They were people like me. And then anyway, I retired from that so I could put more into. Jason was owned by then. We had bought a place, Dixie and I, and that's what we did when we weren't at our job. She was a school teacher and a very good one. And we'd get home, we'd just go change pipe, work cattle, whatever, and did it every day. And I guess one thing I tell her I'm proud of is there was never one day we come home and said, I'm too tired to do this. We always went and did it, and it would jump out of bed in the morning and get after it. But anyway, that led us to a property. We bought that property, improved on it greatly. It was just a mess. And anyway, for years, I've had this thing in the back of my mind about the Nebraska Sandhills, and really thought that if a person was ever going to go someplace and really grow, that'd be the place, because I thought you could get more bang for your buck here when it come to land and that proved to be the case. And anyway, I'd made some trips back here enough to know that this thing's for real. This is where we want to be, and we weren't able to grow anymore there. And I knew with Jason on board, I either had to do something or he was going to find something better. And so anyway, we wound up always thinking, well, we've got to get our place sold, and then we'll find ground in Nebraska. Well, interest rates had went down, and so I went to my banker out there and I said, here's what I want to do. I want you to front me enough money to get into Nebraska, and then we'll sell this thing when it's right. And we basically did that. Had enough to where we could get into the place where Jason lives, and that was just a section, and that was our first purchase. And I don't remember how many cows we brought with us, but it wasn't that many, maybe 100.
Yeah. Right.
Maybe not. But anyway, today that number's about 700. And since then, we've made 2 other land acquisitions, the second one being a year later, when we didn't know how in the heck we were going to make that work. But anyway, did it. And that's where the sale barn is and all the main show facility is right now. And it's been really good. The transition to Nebraska, you do things in life. And obviously, if you're going to move halfway across the United States, you're pretty sure you're doing the right thing. But looking back on it, I probably did not really recognize it being the opportunity that it has been. And probably the biggest factor would be the marketing. Of course, I got, when you got Jason to sell them, you're off to a good start right there. But just right here in this area, the number of bulls that can be sold we've never had a year yet we couldn't have sold more bills than what we've had. And we've done, have done a tremendous amount of embryo transplant. That really got us going. And we've backed off from that considerably and, gone back a little more traditional, which I've really, really enjoyed that too. But I don't know of a place that, if I had my choice to go any place in the country and do this same thing again, it would still be right here. So I'm lucky. We're lucky.
I am curious, how you landed on Thetford. I mean, there's a lot of good ranch country in Nebraska or, neighboring states around there. How did you select the Thetford to call home?
Dixie said I threw a dart at the map on the wall, but it's a little deeper than that. Every time I'd come back here for whatever reason, I would gravitate to Thetford. I'd stay in the motel here. I'd eat in the restaurant here. I'd work out of here. And anyway, after I'd talked to my banker out there and was serious about doing something, not just kicking tires, I called this realtor that I had met and kind of told him what I had in mind. And he said, well, what do you think of Thetford? And I said, Thetford will work. He said, well, there's a place kind of like you're talking about right across from my dad's place up there. And a week later, I was on an airplane. And a week after that, I was signing papers. It was just kind of Casey's dad. I got him to come with me, and he was a realtor. And I remember telling him, I said, I think we can run all over the country, and we're not going to find anything that's going to fit us any better than this. And he said, I agree. So we just got after it. It's amazing how all that fell in place. And then we leased our place in California, wound up selling it to the guy that leased it, and then just kind of have grown from that. Right now, we own 5,200 acres, and we lease about 23,000 acres. Wow. And we bring in a few outside cattle to stock that too. We're blessed with a very good crew, which allows us to, to be expanded. The last place we leased is a bigger one. It's about 20 miles from here. But 6 or 7 years ago, we were able to lease the ABC Ranch up out of Valentine at Kilgore, Nebraska.
Right.
You about got to be my age or close to it to know what ABC Ranch was and what it meant. Roger Chenoweth, who'd been the manager there for 40 years, was my friend, and we'd been up there. The big fire up there. Our crew went up and spent a week helping him. But anyway, he called one day and he told me that Bill's going to either sell this thing or lease it. And I said, I'll be there in a couple of days. I called Jason and said, well, what do you think? Oh, God, he was excited. I remember him calling me back an hour later and he said, Dad, I really want ABC. So anyway, we've been able to lease it. Great people to work with. It's, we get to spend a little time with them every year. But it's a great place and in great shape. And Bill's main deal is that we keep it maintained and we work hard at that. It's already set up, with pasture split up, bull runs. The fire took out a lot of fence. So the current fencing's new. Cabin barn burnt down, so it's new cabin barn. And we're able to start calving up there the latter part of January. Have a couple of really good people that work up there and take care of that. So, it's you look back and it's like, how in the heck did all this happen? And how did so much of it happen? Interesting too, I'll talk a little bit about the past with purebred operations. I remember like during my Stone era, just about every competitive or big outfit was big money. There weren't just a lot of family deals. And now that's changed. And it dazzles me how with the capital outlay it takes in this day and age to make one of these things work, how so many of us have been able to do that. And, we're all just kind of living on the edge. One of the greatest assets we have is a great banker, and he's never told me no. We have backed away from things that we didn't do that he's told me he's glad we did. So he might have told me no on those, but we're very fortunate to have somebody that believes in us. He told me once, he said, and he's an ag guy. He says, I don't really understand your guys' operation. He said, I'll take care of the money. You take care of the cows. That's when I knew I'd found my banker. So here we are.
So, the annual bull sale, you guys now have 2 bull sales. It's expanded from a spring sale and then grown into a fall sale there at the ranch. I mean, you're marketing several hundred, if not thousands, into the thousands of bulls through the private treaty. From MacArthur, you were maybe selling probably not too many.
I remember the first time we sold a trailer, a guy come with a gooseneck and almost filled it up in MacArthur. We thought we'd hit the jackpot.
Yeah.
Anyway, moving on here. The other thing that has really probably did as much for us, particularly in the early years here, is I thought at one time showing would die, with the expenses. In the old Stone days, I could pay my expenses with premium money.
Wow.
That's, we don't even know what premium money is anymore. So anyway, so I thought showing would just die away with as expensive as everything had become. And then we got all these kids showing these heifers, and that totally changed things. It brought kids in from outside of the business, if you want to call it that, to being a part of it. I think the best thing you can do, and I tell people this, the best thing you can do for your young people is get them involved in these projects. I remember in 2007, fall of 2006, we had a sale, split a pair of heifers. You got your choice. One of them was on a good recip, one of them wasn't. And one of the bad recip wasn't taken, obviously. And we knew that was a good heifer. And a family that we knew over in the next valley was interested. And I remember sitting down with those people, table, and saying, yeah, you're doing this because you want to show, but you have no idea by going to junior national what you're really going to get out of this. All the camaraderie. Your boy will make lifelong friends as a result. And went on, and that heifer won the year it was in Denver, junior national. And I can remember him coming to me and saying, you were so right. I didn't realize everything that would happen. So anyway, it is so important to have these projects. And I think a lot of these kids are very fortunate to be able to do this. I've got 8 grandkids that by this summer's junior national will have all shown at a junior national. I'll have 5 grandkids showing up this year's junior national. And I think that is one of the best things you can do for young people is give them that opportunity. It's, you get up in the morning, you turn the TV on, you see them rioting, and raising Cain on these college campuses. I'll bet there aren't any junior national Hereford kids in that group. They've learned, they know right from wrong. And, with the rapid deterioration of the morals and work ethic in this country, it only becomes even more important that we have these projects like this. The kids will learn. I can remember Jason's youngest, she's 9 now, but a year or two ago, kids were talking, and one of them was complaining about how much work it was. And her saying, well, that's what it takes if you want to get it done.
I could see
I'm
her
so
saying
proud of her for that.
it.
But anyway, we're fortunate that we've done that. With Amy and Bailey, the job they've done, our junior national and yourselves, both of you, um, our junior nationals is far and away the best one there is. Um, I can't wait for this one this year because it's back in our home state again in our facility at the State Fair in Nebraska. So anyway, it's a great opportunity for young people. What I'm getting at.
It's the Super Bowl, right? I mean, it is
That's right.
something that we all look forward to, and celebrating 25 years of the Junior National Hereford Expo here in Grand Island this summer. So we are pumped about it. So Denny, what other things you kind of talked a little bit, and this is probably a good segue of, you mentioned the bull shows used to be bigger than the female shows, and now the female shows are bigger, and it's driven largely by, how successful the Junior National has become and how looked upon it is as a family vacation and that atmosphere. You guys have still been able to do both, expand your bull sales, expand your reach into the commercial sector, but still, have a lot of females that can be marketed as youth projects. And so, you guys have obviously embraced online sales and, the marketing aspect and genetics and technology. It's really fascinating how you guys have all evolved with time to keep up and keep pushing forward.
Yeah. You're talking about change there. And the one thing I have learned in my lifetime is if you resist change, you'll get eliminated. Do I wish things were like they used to be in a lot of ways? Yeah, I do. But it's not going to happen. So you've got to move on with it. And then I'm a very lucky man to have the family I have. Excuse me. Jason and Casey, are a great team. Those kids are awesome. My wife, Dixie's the hardest working person I know. And, it's a family deal. And the kids, his kids, all three of them have bought into it. It's really important.
Mm-hmm.
And you look back, we were talking about how the cattle have changed. And the year I judged Denver, which was 1989, I was thinking of this morning. The one stat I had to work from was weight per day of age.
Is that right?
Everything else was eyeball.
Yeah. That may be a good number to come back and use today.
Yeah. Yeah. And we've been very fortunate too with the people that work for us. We've had some excellent people. And I say the only thing wrong with hiring good people is most of them are going to move on and do better. And,
Yeah.
I wish them all the best. Always rooting for somebody that'll go out and improve themselves.
Mm-hmm. Well, you've had a big impact on a lot of young people's lives as you think about, some of your past employees and what they're now doing in the business. And you were a mentor for several people when you were running the fair. You've been very involved in your communities that you've been a part of, through different leadership. And, you have a sincere interest in young people. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah. And, I look back, I spent 4 years on the board and how much the AHA board and how much I enjoyed that. When I move along in life, I graduate to something else. I seldom think back on it a lot. It's you move on, but I did miss those board meetings after that. It was a great group of people I served with. There wasn't one person I didn't respect and enjoy being around. So that was a very important time in my life. And with the young people, I have always enjoyed that. and I really enjoy my grandkids. Dixon and I are leaving tomorrow to go down to my middle daughter's um, for the weekend, and her boy, who is all about sports. I mean, he can throw a football or a baseball. And anyway, he's in a baseball tournament down there, so we get to go watch him. So anyway, I'm a very lucky man. I've got 4 children, Jason and his 3 sisters. None of those kids have ever been in trouble, and they're all productive young citizens raising productive young people. I've got 8 grandkids that I couldn't be any prouder of.
Yeah. Well, it's exciting. The legacy continues on for sure with the operation. So I've always been told this, Denny, and you may not do it now, which I'm sure you it's maybe bittersweet, but I was told that you broke every animal at the ranch. Is that true?
At one time it was. And to be honest, I really miss that.
Yeah.
I just don't have the power left to do it. I'll supervise a little bit. But, I've been doing that for all these years, and you learn a lot. And I enjoy doing that. But I just don't. I've just got too old for it. But it's I miss that. I miss trimming feet. I still have a herdsman's mentality. And as a young person that's back there growing up in Redmond, I just wanted to be a herdsman. And today, I had a better chance then than I do now.
Well, it's your grandkids are fortunate to have a role model like you around to mentor them and push them along, and they can learn a lot from you. So that's pretty neat.
Yeah, I enjoy being with them.
Yeah. So let's maybe wrap up a little bit with this, Denny. You guys are marketing several bulls, largely into the commercial sector, throughout the center of the country and really all throughout the U.S. Two different breeds mainly. What is the, you touched on this earlier relative to soundness and structure, but what's really resonating here in the last few years with the commercial man relative to the Hereford bull?
Well, I want a bull that's going to stay sound, last a lot of years, don't give him calving problems, and give him some baldy cows to put in his herd.
Mm-hmm.
And there is nothing that will compete with a baldy cow. Talking about change too, we're kind of in a new change now. My son, being the go-getter he is, he and Gerald Buck are doing quite a little together. And in the last couple of years, they did the Arlo project, and since then done the 35L project. And that's probably going to be one of the next steps in marketing. You'll see more of this. I mean, with the success we've had there, I'm sure a lot of people are going to try and do that. It didn't take very long to pay for those 2 bulls.
Right. Yeah, no, they're exciting young prospects for the breed, and have generated a big stir. There's no doubt about it.
Anyway, that's kind of my life in a nutshell.
Very good. Well, we appreciate you being on, and I'm going to ask you one last question. If you could give advice to a young junior right now, looking to get into the Hereford breed beyond the junior project, what things would you tell them?
I'm glad you asked me that, because I had made a note of that. To me, it's real simple. Go someplace and work for somebody that's really good. Don't be in a big hurry just to get out and do it all yourself. Go someplace like I did with Doug and work for somebody that's really good at it, that'll teach you the right way. Because you're going to learn. Experience is a great thing, and you're going to learn a lot of things by things that you do as you go along. but you won't do near the number of things as if you'd went to work for somebody that's got a background, that knows the business and knows how to do it right. So, and there's people out there, I mean, we hire a lot of young people here, and they leave with some knowledge, if nothing else. And that's my best advice. Don't be afraid of hard work, and don't be afraid to ask questions.
Yeah. Very good. Well stated. Certainly appreciate you joining us today for the episode here, and wish you guys the best and look forward to seeing you and the family this summer in Grand Island. Speaking of that, make sure you're getting all your entries done in time. The early deadline's approaching here May 15th for the Junior National, and so make sure your registrations are all in order and DNA's ordered, and everything's coming along. The ladies in records are been working with several people, and they'll be glad to help you out if you get stuck with an entry. I'd also encourage you, in light of Beef Month, May is here, and get out and share a story about our great beef, our great Hereford beef, certified Hereford beef, and share about the tradition, share about the rich history of this breed, and that'll continue to pay off as we move forward and continue to market this great breed of cattle. So looking forward to seeing a lot of you this summer, and feel free to reach out if you ever need anything. With that, we're signing off.
Thanks for tuning in to the American Hereford Association's podcast, 1881, with host Shane Bedwell. For more information, visit hereford.org and make sure to subscribe to the podcast today.